thing over to see our beautiful mugs. Boom. I think we are going live on Twitch, Mr. Colin Harding.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, guys, we are back with another episode of You, Me, and Us. And as promised, I am here with Chewbacca Uncircumcised himself, Colin Harding, East Coast. Where are you at, Colin?
I am in Reston, Virginia.
Virginia.
Which is very close to Washington, D.C.
I was going to say, Virginia is like, that's CIA, is that right?
Yeah, no, pretty short drive from Langley, the farm.
Yeah, that's all I know about Virginia is in all of the CIA shows.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of government contractors and IT companies and data centers where I am. And, it's very exciting.
Hey, that sounds fatally boring.
Bunch of nerds.
Yeah, you must have a hard crowd sometimes doing comedy in front of those types.
Unfortunately, I go into DC for the majority of my shows because that's where the big scene is. But actually, my most recent show was in Northern Virginia. It was a decent crowd, a lot of young kids. So
for those who don't know, let's give a little background on Colin. How long you been training jiu-jitsu for?
Been training jiu-jitsu about 5 years. I would say mostly on and a little bit off. I tore my ACL this past June. About a little more than a year ago today. So I'm almost 100%. I'm almost ready to get back into it. But I've been training about 5 years under Pedro Sauer, 2-stripe blue belt. Whoop whoop.
Right on. Pedro's a great affiliation. I know a few people through them.
Yeah. It's a great bunch of guys and girls where I'm at. Very friendly, very family friendly. Great environment to learn in. People aren't trying to take your head off constantly, and very nurturing, which is something I need because I'm actually a bruise easy. I'm like a peach.
So actually, what I'm hearing is that you're the only big guy, so you're happy being the only crusher. So answer for the world, because the internet wants to know: are you or are you not, in fact, Conan the Barbarian?
Oh man, I wish. I like to channel Conan the Barbarian. He's like my spirit animal. I'm a huge fan of Conan, the movie. As portrayed by Muscle Jesus himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Prime Muscle Jesus.
Also a big fan of the stories by Robert E. Howard that are just not appropriate at all in 2018. They're terribly sexist and violent, and I don't think he goes so far as to be misogynistic, but I'm biased.
Not for the faint of heart or left of wing.
Not for the faint of heart, but if you enjoy pulp, sword, and sorcery, where a BAMF always beats the bad guy and saves the damsel in distress, I highly encourage you to go out and get Robert E. Howard's Conan the Barbarian stories. You won't be disappointed.
I know very little about the actual canon of Conan the Barbarian. All I know is the picture art that I see looks like every 1980s action horror film I've ever seen.
Which is what I grew up on. So I love that stuff. Like I grew up playing pen and paper Dungeons and Dragons with my brother, and playing all these old computer role-playing games, back in the day, just where it was just a mess of pixels and you had to use your imagination.
Yeah.
I'm not sure children today know how to do that very well.
Well,
stuck with me.
Yeah, they got smartphones. They probably are going to just absolutely walk circles around our childhood. They'll be,
You're right.
We're going to be the cavemen, but by their standards.
You're right. I'm shitting on it, but I'm envious.
Yeah, they started real good compared to us.
Yeah.
So, Conan being your spirit animal, I'm seeing a lot of posts from you online that involve Conan himself as well as lifting heavy things. Is that kind of where this is coming from?
Yeah, when I tore my ACL, I hadn't started lifting it. I'm coming up on my 1-year anniversary on July 1. My buddy got me into it right after I tore my ACL. I was like, his name is Paul, and I said, Paul, I'm worried, man. I just tore my ACL. I can't do jujitsu anymore, or at least not for a while. Like, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna get super fat. because that's my natural state of being is if my body wants to be big one way or the other, it's either going to be muscles or it's going to be Jabba the Hutt. So yeah, he was like, come to the gym. He had been lifting for a couple months leading up to that, and then he had lifted for like 20 years beforehand. So he's just a man, has all this knowledge. He's like, come to the gym. You can still train your upper body. And so, yeah, I went in and just sort of kept my head down and did my best, pudgy and injured for the first couple months. About 3 months in, I started to see like the first definitive evidence of the hard work I'd been putting in show up on my body. And I was like, all right, I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And that's around when the idea of, unleashing my inner barbarian took over. And I started to see in my mind a picture of who I might want to be. And now that I realized that I could do the work and actually see the effects show up on my body, it really lit a fire under my ass, and I got to work.
Well, that's cool. You said about 3 months in, you started seeing definitive results?
Yeah, I started off on a basic push-pull legs routine, which if you do a Google search, you'll find plenty of examples of what that entails. Went in 3 days a week for an hour at a time, doing a little bit of cardio leading up to my workout. Nothing too intense because my cardio was that of a pregnant cow at that point, so I couldn't go too hard. But yeah, just 3 days a week, 1 hour at a time for 3 months. Like that's the magic pill right there. Anybody can do that. If I can do it, literally anybody can do it. I was the laziest, man. Oh, I was the laziest.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody thinks that it takes so much time, even for jujitsu. Like, oh, I just don't have the time, or
Right.
I need to get in shape first. And there's all these excuses when really, like, showing up solves all those in one pill.
Yeah, that's what, I don't know. I think it's probably a pretty prevalent saying in jiu-jitsu schools everywhere, but people just say keep showing up.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. No, we're not all going to be, overnight Gordon Ryans and Gary Tonins and what have you. But everybody starts from square one in all things, and it all starts with the thought, really, and that thought is, maybe I can. And if you keep showing up, that maybe I can, it just grows. It's the spark, and your passion is the fuel, and you just keep showing up, and it fans the flame.
Yeah,
it goes for all things.
I have a theory about jujitsuka, people who enjoy jujitsu, who participate in jujitsu, is that everybody, in my experience, and again, this is a generalization, but in my experience, I find everybody has their own brand of nerd that keeps them going in jujitsu. We've already touched on your Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing nerdism, so it's nice for me to sort of get to know different people and understand exactly what type of flavor of nerd they are.
Oh yeah, I'm an equal opportunity nerd. That's just one facet of my nerddom. But yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. It's especially in the area where I'm at. Like I already said, that Northern Virginia is heavy on the IT and government contractors and such. Like at my school, it's like everybody is in IT. Yeah. Everybody is into computers. It's just like, what do you do? I'm a sysadmin. Like, what do you do? Like, I maintain firewalls. Like, what do you do? I fix printers. And it's ridiculous. It's like 90% IT and then like maybe like 10% law enforcement.
Well, I think that if there was a law of physics involved in this somewhere, it would have to do with people who are nerds can more easily nerd out on things. And when you nerd out on something, you want to get all the way in. And I think that people can hold on to like maybe 3, stretching it maybe 4 nerd-isms at a time. And if you make jujitsu one of them as a nerd, in your environment, in that ecosystem of nerddom, it makes it easier to keep coming because, at least for myself, I have an addictive personality when it comes to stuff I like. So if I find something I like, I'm not going to put it down until I'm done learning all of it.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, and the thing about jiu-jitsu is there's no way to learn all of it.
No, yeah, it's a journey that never ends, and that in itself is a lesson worth learning.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not about ever completing the codex, of jiu-jitsu, reaching the end.
Yeah.
Well, you've reached max level. You've learned all there is to know and mastered every skill. It's not like that. Not certain anything is really. It's about the journey, as hackneyed as that sounds.
Yeah, I mean, the journey itself, like I'm a brown belt. I've been doing this for 11 years. And
Congratulations, by the way. This is fairly recent, is
yeah,
it?
actually, my jujitsu versary was June 22nd, which was, I
That's
guess,
awesome,
yeah, a
dude.
few days ago.
That's super cool.
Um, but besides the fact, that was a humble brag. besides,
Yeah,
besides that
I
fact,
mean, it's a hell of an accomplishment. But moving
yeah, again,
on.
it feels less of an accomplishment and more of like I'm still nerding out over it. You know,
Yeah.
there's lots to go. And in my experience, I find that there's this strange ebb and flow that you'll only see retrospectively. That looks like this: when you start off at white belt, the world is enormous. There's so many things to learn, and everything is something you don't know, and it's kind of daunting, terrifying, and exciting all at the same time. And then as you get through your blue and coming up on purple, you'll start to feel like, okay, I've got my head around all of the basics. I'm starting to figure out the more technical stuff. And then up into the brown as you get closer to black, I start to see everybody starting to narrow their focus again. So it started off very big and it starts to
Mhm.
funnel down and then it gets very narrow. And if you look at most black belts, their game is, I don't want to use the word basic, but it's very, they have a set that, or a path that's burned into their brain. Even like take world champions like Marcelo Garcia, Rafael Lovato Jr., you know what they're going to do because they do it the best.
You're
And
right. You're
and
absolutely right.
I think that, and this is a little bit of speculation because I'm not there yet, but I think at black belt, once you've got that narrowing down to what you're going to use, whether it's your 10 moves that work all the time, then at that point you can kind of branch out slowly to start to pick up a few more tricks and add them and see if you can replace some of the ones that you were using for too long or add to them. I think
Yeah.
like as you're starting to add stripes on your black belt, it starts to branch back out and you start to master more of those things that you sort of fell off the wayside because they weren't fitting your path.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I haven't. I'm not anywhere near as far on the journey as you are, so I can't speak definitively to that. But that's certainly what I believe, what I've observed. Um, I can't recall who said it, but somebody at my school mentioned one time they likened a white belt to learning the letters of an alphabet. You're learning the letters, and then when you get your blue belt, you're learning words. Purple, you're starting to put together basic sentences. You know, brown, you're writing paragraphs. And then you reach black, and you can begin to write your own book of jujitsu for you. And that's I really like that analogy. Um, 'Cause, yeah, no, you do. I imagine, as you said, the high level practitioners, their game is deceptively simple. You
Mhm.
know, so it's like you know he's gonna like Chrome Gracie, he's got like a killer triangle. You know, like you know he's gonna go for it. You know, it's just, but you can't stop it.
Yeah,
You know, it's
yeah.
like, how does he do that? It's a lot of little things that maybe you can't see because you haven't trained enough yet. But it's just it's brilliant in that way.
Hmm.
And yeah, it does, I think that does open you up for greater variety once you reach that black belt level. At least I hope so.
Yeah, I think once you've got that mastery in what you do at that black belt level, like these are my moves, these are my black belt moves, then from there it's probably a very stable position to start branching out and testing other things. Like you're not going to see everybody using berimbolo at black belt, but they probably could learn it at that point if they wanted. It's not gone if they didn't learn it at purple, you know?
Yeah, it's like it's a stable platform to learn from. It's like mastery of a language.
Hmm.
If you have mastery of the language of jujitsu, you can read anybody's book, that they've written on their style. They'll open their book to you. Oh yeah, this makes sense to me. Yeah, da, 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 da. Okay, let me try that
Yeah.
out. But if you're a white belt, you're like, I understand some of these letters.
What the fuck is that?
I do this with my. I don't fucking know. I'm a white
Yeah,
belt.
I took a
Keep
seminar.
coming back.
Speaking of Pedro Sauer Association, I took a seminar years back, maybe 6 years back, with Keith Owen, who's
Oh
a
yeah, the
famous black
Rhino.
belt under him. That's right. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got a lot of notoriety and popularity online. Great guy. He's got
yeah.
just a really addictive personality when you meet him in person. Very boisterous, and he that was a long preamble. Now I forget what I was going to say.
You attended
I
a
attended a
seminar.
seminar.
That jog your memory?
I definitely was at a seminar. I remember it very well.
With Keith Owen, I believe.
Yeah.
Sorry, man, I have to
What were we
scale.
talking about before we got onto this? You were saying paragraphs and books, and
Yeah,
oh yes, I
that's true.
remember. Okay,
My man.
so back on it. He was saying for him at that point, and he had just got his, I think, recently a second stripe on his black belt at that time. He was saying that for him at that point of his journey, he can look at a move once and say, "Yeah, I get it." Like he doesn't have to dissect it and feel it and test it and sharpen it. He can look at a move and because there's so much data chunking that goes into what the human body does with levers and momentum and push pull tension that
Hmm.
when you've seen it enough times, you've got that 10,000 hours worth on the mats.
Yeah, yeah.
It just you see it for what it is mechanically, I think, at that point. Like I can definitely speak from some experience in that. Like there
Hmm.
are certain guards that I don't use, but I know how to break them because I
Right.
understand what's making them work. Um,
I'm I know exactly what you mean. I mean, to a limited extent, but I'm at the point in my game now where I'm just now starting to see common threads.
mhm.
Between basic movements that perhaps we've done as warm up exercises. That I've done since a white belt, and I'm like, hey, well, that part of this move's just standing up in base. Or I'll see, just common threads. Like that's just threading the needle or the teeter totter. That's how we get to this position in this move or this series that we're learning today. And I'm starting to see these common threads come together and just a glimpse of the bigger picture.
Yeah,
It's
it's
super cool though.
it's almost like
That's the
Coach
stuff.
know what he was doing from the beginning.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, that's one of the hard. That was one of the hardest things for me to do when I was a white belt. Was just like to quiet the voice in my head, just to learn to STFU, and just
Yeah,
absorb, empty my cup, so to speak.
yeah.
Um,
I was terrible for that at white belt too, because
yeah,
like I started in a very small school. In fact, my entire training's been in a small school. It's been with the same instructor, and like if we have 12 people in one class, it's a full class.
right.
So it didn't take very long when you understand the attrition rates that jiu-jitsu gyms have before I
Yeah,
was the senior student. I was still a white belt while I was the senior student
yeah.
at
It's
that
so
point.
funny
Yeah.
that you say that. I remember when I was a white belt at my school. It was a larger school than yours, not a super big school, but I would say a big class at the original school that I started at. We moved into a larger space since then, but the school that I started at, maybe a large class for the basic would be like 20 people. So
Yeah.
not too terribly much larger than yours, but I remember being a white belt at this school and not knowing anybody, and people were friendly, but they were guarded.
Hmm.
And I was like, why doesn't anybody want to be my friend? Right? It's because the attrition rate is
Yeah.
so high. It's like they probably just got tired of, they're like, I kind of like this person. Yeah, I'll start to befriend them. And like, where the fuck did he go?
I know.
Is he gone now? He's never coming back? So it's like you have to like prove to everybody that you're going to stick it out. You're going to keep coming back before you're like, okay, I'll be a friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come
Once
here.
once you've got one stripe on your bar, then people stop calling you thing one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so
One
since I
of
was the
us.
senior student as a white belt, I had it in my head that like I knew more than I thought that, well, I thought that I knew more than I actually knew by a long shot. Like this was back when YouTube was just starting to get going too, like
Uh-huh.
mid to late 2000s.
Yeah.
And so I would always, on off hours be YouTubing all these new moves, and I'd come to class thinking, "Yeah, now I know the jujitsu. You just wait." I remember one time, well, my coach, like he does a great job of cycling back on an idea within the same week. So a lot of times we'll practice the same move more than one class in the same week, so that
Mhm.
we're getting reps. Like it's not like we show
Yeah.
you a new move, the next class is a new move, and next class is a new move. So it got to the point that I saw a lot of the regular moves we were doing by the time all these new students were coming in. And I remember him showing like a variation that I hadn't seen on something. I can't even remember what it was. And I, I blurted out while he was explaining this, "I've never seen that before." like that's a big revelation. And he literally stops while he's demoing and he looks at me and says, "Wow, guys, can you imagine? Drew's never seen this before." And I shelled
Yeah.
up so tight at that point. I was like, "Ooh, that came
When I
out
felt
so
about this
bad."
big all of a sudden, right?
Yeah. I start remembering what my belt looks like.
That's great. I mean, show me a white belt who hasn't had like an instance of where they've forgotten how to be humble for a moment. Like
Yeah.
I'll show you a fucking
Yeah.
liar. Like, I've definitely been guilty on more than one occasion in my jiu-jitsu career of like being like the senior of the students, in the group, or even just like matched up with somebody who hasn't been going as long as me, and I'm like, well, let me show you how this is done, Sonny Jim. Like I've been around. I've
Yeah.
done this, fours of times before.
Uh-huh.
So, I think I know what I'm talking about here. And I'm doing it all fucking wrong. It's like the blind leading the blind. Then the black belt comes over, like, there. Now, Colin, hands here.
Yeah, I've been that guy as the instructor, and it gives me great joy if when I walk from group to group to see how they're doing, and I see one guy's coaching the other guy, and he's coaching him all wrong. I'll wait until he finishes coaching the technique, and then I'll watch the guy doing it, and then I'll walk over and say, actually, that grip's supposed to go there. And the guy who just got coached looks up at his co-student like, that son of a bitch.
Betrayal.
Yeah, just the
That's not
look like,
just
I will
different.
never trust you with anything again.
Oh man, I don't know. It's so silly. It's so human of us. But oh man, one of my favorite phrases, and certainly prevalent throughout jiu-jitsu. Everybody's heard this one: is that ego is not your amigo.
Yeah,
And we all know better, but it still rears its ugly, stupid face every once in a
yeah,
while.
yeah. There's I remember Gary Tonin going on a rant one time about how not having an ego isn't even possible, like
Mhm.
from a psychological sense. So like
Yeah,
you need to understand what people are saying when they say leave your ego at the door. It's not like there's no egos on the mat, but just got to
right.
check it constantly and keep checking it, keep checking it.
Unless you're talking about maybe like 10th Planet and you've done a bunch of shrooms before you go. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow, yeah, then you
You
might
don't
not
do
have any id either.
that.
Just be
Shatter
floating
your
out
ego,
there,
man.
out in space.
No, I'm just kidding. I love 10th Planet. They're a great bunch of guys and girls. I'm just giving them shit.
That's okay. They make great memes.
They do make great memes. They either make great memes or they make four great memes.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. They're great for idea
It's fertile
cultivation.
soil.
Yeah. Um, Speaking of marijuana, since we're on it now, are you? I'm not familiar with all the states in the U.S. It's like a roll of the dice if you guys got it or don't. Do you got it or you don't?
It's so funny. So we're Virginia is part of the DC metro area. Uh, it's known as the DMV locally, DC, Maryland, Virginia. Right? You'd never have heard that term unless you live around here.
It
But DC,
sounds even more boring than before, man. This is
I
not
know.
getting any better.
Stay with me. So I'm in the V, not like that, but.
Wait a second. I want you to stop for a second and just marvel at how wonderful that last sentence was.
The V. I maybe later, but it's a DC legal as fuck.
Okay.
Maryland legal, I believe, for medical, but not recreational. And Virginia is probably going to be the last fucking state in the country to
Oh.
legalize it for any purpose. It's just the way they do in Virginia. It's the Commonwealth, man. They they have the most draconian laws in some ways, and yeah, I like it here. Don't get me wrong, me Virginia, but yeah, it's not the most liberal of places when it comes to the Chiba.
Mm. So does that now getting back to your comedy career, do you find noticeable differences now that stuff is legal in certain places and not still in others as you move around and tell your dirty jokes?
I have noticed a lot more jokes on the subject.
Okay, yeah, makes
Probably
sense.
because a lot of people who hadn't tried it before are trying it now. It's just prevalent. Yeah, you walking around DC now. Like I perform a lot in a neighborhood in DC called Adams Morgan. There's a lot of bars and clubs there. It's a cool, fun little neighborhood, and you just you gotta shuck and jive if you don't want to walk through clouds of the stuff. Like that's just how it is now. It's
Yeah.
wild.
That
Yeah,
was
Saturday
something I was
night.
wondering. I was wondering as legality was rearing its head, as it was getting more and more realistic in certain areas. Not so much how many people would be using it, but how prevalent that smell would be everywhere you go, because it's so
I
much
mean,
more potent than cigarettes, right?
oh yeah, it's. I mean, I, don't know, I think they both smell pretty strongly,
I don't know. I
and
can smell pot like a block away if my window's open at night.
okay, so that's nice to know. It's not just me. I feel like I have a preternatural ability from in my torrid youth, years and years of partaking.
Mm.
Recently, not so much, but trying something different. But I always thought that was just me. I could catch a whiff. It was like I thought it was like an X-Man or something, like somebody smoking some. Straight from the But yeah, no, it's crazy. You know, it's just it's everywhere, and it's just so funny because like Virginia's hemmed in basically by places, two states where it's super easy to get. It's just everywhere.
Yeah.
Virginia's like no. You know, like you are aware, Virginia, that it is here. It's like literally flooding your streets now more than ever because your neighbors have it, in excess. And Virginia's like, no, we don't want to believe it. You know.
Yeah, it's that old folk couple, the like 80-year-old couple that's stuck between two party houses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Get off my lawn.
The good old days. No, get off my lawn. I remember back when this was a nice neighborhood.
Way back when.
Get my shotgun, Mabel. Yeah. That's Virginia. Old curmudgeon.
So I noticed while we were setting up our audio before the show, you got a couple of man's best friends running around the background.
I do. I'm petting the butt
yeah,
right now.
I see the tail going.
They never leave me alone, constantly vying for my attention and battling it out. I've got two dogs. They're both fairly large, both about 85 pounds.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I like big dogs.
And
you
cannot lie.
I cannot lie. I just don't see the point in having small, ineffective dogs. Like,
ineffective? What are you using them for? You throw them at people?
let me tell you how much of the sidewalk belongs to me when I walk around.
You got one on either side, plus your Conan arms. There's no room.
You have never. Well, no, you don't want to do one on either side because then you're playing this game and you look like you're,
I was gonna say
drunk Bruce Lee or something because they're just pulling you in all different directions, but.
With that much breadth, you'd have one dog in traffic.
They'll wrap around your legs. Now, the move is to keep them both on one arm, keep them both in one hand, and if you have not yet walked around a suburban neighborhood with 170 pounds of dog strapped to an arm, you have not lived.
How do you do that after bicep day?
Very carefully.
Tie them to your hip.
We go out late at night, so there's nobody else around.
Less squirrels.
Yeah, the squirrel. Oh man, I like to say every squirrel is an adventure. They're either, they got two modes. They're either anchors or rockets at any given time, and it's just I do my best. It was real fun when I was recovering from my knee surgery. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, dude.
Walking dogs on a recently repaired ACL. That was
no bueno.
I was crossing myself before I went out.
Yeah. Well, we had a good run. Wow. So tell me, how did you blow that ACL? Was that a jiu-jitsu injury?
It was a jiu-jitsu injury. It was my second ever tournament. I don't know how much backstory. Hang on, I got a dog screwing everything up.
Well, it sounds like at least you've got a good story. It wasn't like Tony Ferguson, sunglasses on inside, and he trips over a cable. That's not a good story. It's kind of a good story with how bad the story is. But if you got a tournament story how you blew it, then that's A quality.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to get into too much, but all right, darling, you need to leave now. You're done.
I'm sorry.
Get out of here.
Okay.
Not you, darling.
Yeah.
So I went to this tournament. It was my second ever tournament. I really, for reasons, needed to go to this tournament to prove to myself that I wasn't a gigantic loser. Needed to go, and I needed to win.
So that'll probably work well, right?
Yeah, right. You know, I had no option. I had to go, and I had to compete, and I had to win.
I'm glad you're not setting yourself up for anything.
No, it all worked out. Let me tell you.
Doesn't it always?
So yeah, I've been going to a lot of jujitsu, and I was like, I'm ready. You know, but I was eating poorly, and I was overweight. I was not ready, but I thought I was ready, and I thought it was going to be like my triumphant Karate Kid moment. You know, I was just gonna.
Hey, Karate Kid also blew his knee at the end, didn't he?
He did, and then he redeemed himself. So I was like 90% there.
But then the ref said I wasn't allowed to crane kick. It was total bullshit.
You know, the problem is Elizabeth Shue wasn't in the audience. If Elizabeth Shue was in the audience in her plaid skirt, I 100% would have fucking crane kicked that guy and been disqualified. But
if you could have like some audio in the background, you're the best around.
I love that song. That song gets me going. But yeah, so anyway, I went to compete, and my very first match, I started working with this guy, strong dude, got my grips, and I've strong grips. He couldn't break my grips. He started getting frustrated. I should have gone. I was hoping to go for an Osotogari. I didn't. I had my grips. I could have gone for it, but instead I was just like, let's play the push-pull game a little bit more. And I hear from the audience or the onlookers, somebody in his squad just go like, throw him! And he did. He was not a move I recognized from any of my my judo classes. He just sort of tried to take me over, and one foot lifted, the other foot stayed firmly planted on the mat. I twisted around like a ballerina, and bad things happened to my knee.
Yeah, good.
So did not work out the way I wanted, but door shuts, window opens, so to speak, and got me into lifting, which has been a real boon for me.
That'll be the sequel to the bad ending on the first movie.
I'm not going out like that.
No.
That's I'm gonna compete again in October. I will be cleared to compete again by my surgeon.
Oh, okay. So the tournament was actually just the beginning of the movie, and we're in like the Rocky montage right now.
We're montaging it out. I'm like a year into lifting. We can condense that down into a really slick montage, probably set to Mr. Esposito's "You're the Best."
Do you punch halves of beef, sides of beef? I hear it's important. Running stairs.
Yeah, it is important. You got to tenderize the meat before you eat it. And
it's true. And then you get that protein, bro.
Want them gains, bro.
I got a question for you. Having gone from jiu-jitsu to gym life, gym life, different type of gym. How much has your vernacular changed? How many bros do you drop in a given sentence? How many times do you talk about gains and protein and pre-workouts and you're stretching, your off days, your leg days, just words nobody else outside of that universe uses? You seem embarrassed, so it's probably a high quotient.
More than I'd like to admit, but I'm not as stereotypical bro-y as you might think.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I am super, like we were talking about before, like how a nerd will nerd out on things that he's passionate about.
Yeah.
By golly, I got passionate about lifting and everything that goes along with that. The diet, the recovery, I've just plumbed the depths of YouTube in my quest for knowledge on the subject, So yeah, no, I could speak at length and use all of the buzzwords you've just mentioned and more.
Bro, listen. Yeah. So tell me about your diet then. Are you still you're obviously still bulking, right? What's your diet like?
Yeah, I guess what I'm doing now is sort of like what the guys in the lifting scene or whatever you might call it, like bodybuilding.
Meatheads,
meatheads. And let me dispel a myth since we're talking about meatheads, because this is something that I thought was true when I first entered the gym, knowing nothing. I thought that guys who got big and bodybuilders in general were meatheads. and they were big dumb lunks that just moved weights around and ate a lot of chicken. And I could not have been more wrong
Wait.
because
Sarah? Whoa. Okay. Had to get my head around that for a second. Okay, continue.
Yeah, it was a hard stop for me too. I was like, huh? Because to make your body do the things that it needs to do to grow in that way, that like magnificent way that only some people are able to achieve, that is not something that a dumb person is able to do. It's not a genetic gift that some people are large and able to have well-defined muscles. It takes a lot of planning, like a lot of planning.
A lot of horse meat.
Like, yeah, horse meat, a lot of horse meat. That's good meat.
Right?
I eat it by the can. But,
Conan would.
It's an excellent meat for canning. But no, I mean, these guys are like damn scientists. What they're talking about. I learned more about biology through reading about how bodybuilders diet.
Isn't that strange?
It is wild. I did not see this one coming.
Yeah,
like, here's these giant dudes, like look like they're just like Hulk smash, and that's the extent of their vocabulary. Speaking at length on subjects that would make your high school biology teacher weep out of joy.
Talking about restructuring their supraspinatum so they don't blow their deltoid.
Talking about, just think like the exercise movements, for example. They're speaking like they're reading out of an anatomy book. Like, are you serious right now? Like, are you a doctor? No, I was in finance. Like, okay. Yeah, so talking about like the diets, talking about like, like insulin responses and, this, that, and the other. It's wild. Like how in depth they get in knowing how to get the most out of their bodies. Anyway, so let me just dispel that myth about meatheads right now. I'm not saying meatheads don't exist, but the people who reach the pinnacle of fitness,
yeah, they don't exist there.
Yeah, they're an anomaly. Like,
okay,
yeah.
So I'm trying to unpackage this irony in my brain because I'm picturing jocks in school that only got by on their physical education, they couldn't pass science class, are actually now the scientists, the anatomists, the physicists when it comes to the human body when they actually need it. So the irony could be A, the jock becomes the nerd, or it could be B, the jock never needed school and he ended up learning about the body without it.
I don't know, you'd be surprised if you look at if you do some Googling on the before images from a lot of the current like big boys in the sport, or just take bodybuilding, for example. Like there's some before pictures that you'd be like, wow, really? He went from, skinny surfer dude to, human tank, it's not always the jock that is able to make the leap. In fact, anybody can. It takes, from what I understand, 5 years to meet what they call your genetic potential. And everybody's got a different genetic potential.
That sounds so Hitlerian. Continue. Let's talk about races. Genetic potential. Blood rights.
You can eat only chicken and rice. But it takes apparently 5 years of dedicated training, dedicated diet, no drinking, no drugs, getting the right amount of sleep. I know, no fun.
Again, this sounds very Virginia. Go on.
It's very Spartan, man. I'm telling you. But if you can do that within 5 years, you will be the best you that you can be in terms of your physique.
This explains all of the motivational quotes and memes in the nutrition industry. Because it's just, you sounded like you were writing them as you were saying that. That was wonderful. If we were to put a sunrise between any of those sentences, or like someone leaping over a hill or something,
Man, you gotta believe in something. That's all I'm saying. If you're eating nothing but ground beef and chicken and rice and sadness all day, every day, in the hopes that you're gonna improve the way you look in 5 years' time, yeah, you better believe in something, man. I gotta tell you.
Yeah. What. I don't like. I'll say, for my own sake, like I'm the skinny dude who's always had a high metabolism. That I'm kind of a human dumpster when it comes to what I put in my body, And
Right.
my wife is not, and she has a hard time keeping her weight off and trying to stay healthy. And if you were
Mhm.
to compare our diets, if there was one of those food things where they came in your house and showed you this is what you ate in the last week, hers
Mhm.
would be immaculate. And then they'd look at me and be like, I don't know what to say with
Yeah.
this guy because
No,
he's still got a six pack, but he's cancer.
no, I mean, people like you exist. You have, gosh, what is it? A low insulin sensitivity,
Mm.
wherein you can. I saw
Oh
you
yeah,
drinking like a soda, like out of a 2 liter on
yeah.
your podcast.
It was a 1 liter, but I had a couple.
All right, all right. I was like, this MFer, come on.
Yeah,
Like I
no.
can't even look. I look at soda and my tits grow. I was like, are you serious?
Yeah,
Like,
this is the thing. Like my wife blames me if she gains any weight because I'm the one bringing the shit in the house. You know what I mean? She says this is her quote for me is I'm the skinniest fat person she's ever met.
no, I know people like you. One of my best friends growing up was just like you, and I have the opposite problem. Like I said, my body wants to
Yeah.
be big one way or the other,
So
and if I don't lift weights, it gets big in a not pleasant way. And he always had trouble gaining weight.
yeah,
He wanted to be big. He wanted to put on muscle. And it was very difficult for him. He eating Popeyes and
mm.
drinking milkshakes and all this stuff, and just would struggle with it
Yeah.
to
I've
this
got a
day.
student that's like that too. He's got a higher metabolism than myself, and he joined a lightweight division for this last tournament he went in. So like
Mhm.
150, 155, somewhere in there, and he came in at 138. He's like,
Oof.
I was trying to get big. He's like, I've never been this light. I thought I had to train more and I just kept dropping weight. I'm like, oh my God. Next time you're going to pick at least a weight class below that, maybe two. But
Yeah,
anyways, I say all this to say that for myself in that situation, now that you know a little backstory about
yeah.
my quote unquote diet, um, is when I hear the word diet, to me, the only thing that like rings a bell of reminiscence in my head about is cutting weight, which has to do with terrible diets. Like you're saying,
Right,
like salad and sadness. That's what
right.
diet
Yeah,
means to me. So when I hear someone saying I got to change my diet or I'm going on this diet or that diet, I just think of sadness. Like
yeah, no,
tell me about a diet that you've been doing obviously for quite a while that has at least less sadness to it.
absolutely. And I've tried so many because I've struggled with my weight my entire life. I still struggle with my weight. I'm not rocking a six pack right now.
Are you a blue belt two stripe in bodybuilding?
I think I've got my blue belt in bodybuilding. My,
Okay.
my buddy Paul, who is he's the black belt. He's the grandmaster.
Mm.
He told me around when I was able to put up 225 on the bench for reps for the first time, which I'm happy to say was a while ago now.
Ooh.
He was like, okay, you got your blue belt if you can reach that. If you can reach that point, that's like one indicator. It takes a while of concerted effort, but Drew, what was the question again?
The question was, tell me
The
about a
diet.
diet that is
The
not
diet. All right,
riddled with
sorry.
sadness and
Riddle with
suicidal
sadness.
tendencies.
Sorry about that. Yes. My diet, and I've tried so many. My current diet is they call it a carb backloading diet, right? I
Sounds
eat.
tasty.
Man, I went keto for a while, and I used like, which is for anybody who doesn't know, and is popular, but like no carbs whatsoever. You limit yourself to 25 grams or less a day
Hmm.
to maintain a state of ketosis. I used to have like fever dreams of like toast with butter and jam on it. Like I swear to you,
Pasta in an IV.
I was yeah. I used to dream of like jiggly titties, if I'm allowed to say that on the show. And I
I'm
was
allowed to
dreaming
say that. You can't say that. Continue.
okay. Used to dream of JTs. Um,
Justin Timberlake, me too, buddy. It's a hard life.
no, it's just I like his hair. What do I say? I liked it better when it looked like ramen noodles, but
It's gonna be May.
it's got a big bite. Uh, yeah,
So carb backloading.
carb backloading is super cool though because you get to eat carbs unlike a diet like keto, which is really truly sadness.
Yeah.
That diet is sadness. It is the best diet for losing fat, but you will sacrifice muscle on a keto diet. And I do believe for anybody, any human, it is not sustainable indefinitely. I think eventually you're gonna crack. and you're going to start eating carbs again. And if you don't cycle back into them slowly, you're going to balloon up. I did it. It happened to me. I'm living proof. It sucked. But whatever. Carb backloading is cool. I actually just started eating 6 times a day. But I started by eating 5 times a day, every 2 hours, at least every 2 hours, no more than every 3 hours. Starting off my day with eggs. I would eat 2 eggs, 2 whole eggs, 2 egg whites, and a protein shake, which is 25 grams of protein. The idea is to eat, 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight a day.
Here comes that sciencey muscle talk.
Sciencey stuff, and that's if you want to grow. That's if you want to. If you just want to maintain, they say that the human body needs 20 grams of protein every 2 to 3 hours, just to prevent your body from going into a catabolic state, which means your body is always in either an anabolic or catabolic state. Very simply, anabolic building muscle, catabolic breaking muscle down. So if you don't have a steady supply of protein in your bloodstream, eventually your body's going to be like, okay, what time is it? Time to break some muscle down because we need some fucking protein in the bloodstream, right? Because you're not eating enough. So, it's going to start breaking your own muscle down to feed the machine. So it's important to get protein from whatever your preferred sources are. I like meat. It works for me, tried and true. I start my day off with eggs, good protein in eggs, supplement with a little protein shake, 25 Gs, get my 50 grams of protein in with breakfast. And also a little MCT oil. I don't know if you're familiar with that stuff. It's pretty cool.
I hear it's basically like a shit indicator. Or
yeah, be careful with the MCT oil, boys and girls. You don't want to exceed 2 tablespoons in a day, or you're going to be very familiar with the intricacies of the toilet bowl for the next 4 to 6 hours. Speaking from unfortunate experience, but MCT oil is cool. It comes from coconuts. It stands for medium chain triglyceride oil. And it is a form of oil that is so highly available to your body. You say you drink like a capful, immediately you're going to feel a burst of energy because your body can, it's wild. It's better than, it's like gives you a cleaner and easier burst of energy than like coffee does. Because your body just takes it and it's like, turn it into energy. We can use this right away,
I feel like this would be dangerous for me to play with because I am an energy junkie generally in the way of like energy drinks, and so I might overdo the MTC oil.
It's not super sustained, but
okay,
you will get a definite, like I would say for like the next hour or so, you'd be like, more awake, more aware, and quicker. But what I use it for in the morning, why I take it in the morning, is because as my first meal of the day, I haven't eaten all night. I've been sleeping. I eat and I take a little bit of that, and immediately kicks me into ketosis.
Right.
So I work a desk job. I'm now burning fat sitting on my ass at my desk job because I'm in a state of ketosis. Heyo. EA science.
What are you doing? I don't know. I'm burning fat, bitch.
Burning fat, writing emails. What are you doing?
Yeah.
That's called multitasking.
Look like my fat's going to your ass.
And so, okay, first meal, eggs, protein shake, MCT oil. Now we're in ketosis. We're burning fat while we sit. Second meal, 2 hours, no more than 3 hours later, is going to be half a pound of ground beef. I make a little hamburger with sea salt and black pepper. And I could go off on a tangent right now on the importance of sea salt.
I love sea salt.
I don't have to do that. I will just say briefly for everybody and anybody who might ever hear this, if you have table salt in your house, sodium chloride, NaCl, that is the same stuff that they put on the road to melt ice when it snows. It does not belong in your body. It is just one electrolyte of many electrolytes found in sea salt that are all necessary for cell transport in your body. Get yourself some sea salt. Get rid of the table salt.
This podcast is in no way sponsored by sea salt or...
I'm looking for sponsors. Morton's, get at me.
Yeah.
Sea salt. All right. You're my favorite sea salt. Just ground beef, half pound, because that's approximately 50 grams. Looking for 50 grams of protein-ish every meal. And then next meal is going to be it also has a good amount of fat to it.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you have some fat throughout your day. but not too much. Macros, important to to meet your macros of fat, carbohydrates, and protein.
I got to get all this terminology in check, man. I'm
There's
having
macronutrients,
flashbacks.
micronutrients. Yeah, I know. It's
I'm
just,
having flashbacks to 10th grade science when I was basically
I'm
just
telling
drawing
you.
monsters in the margins. I wasn't really paying attention.
I loved biology in school before I just became a deviant for about a decade. I was pretty straight laced in high school, though, and I really liked biology. And now I'm finding that a lot of that knowledge is applicable to learning how to gain the right kind of weight. It's cool.
So that didn't
Meal.
really define what is exactly carb backloading. You're talking about like your
Right. I'm sorry. I'm rambling. I'm getting there, though. I
okay.
promise. Bear with me.
Let's get there.
Okay.
I'm not pushing you.
We go chicken breast. Next meal, chicken breast.
Delicious
Then,
and sexy.
Delicious and sexy chicken breast. Used to be T-Rex back in the day, is what I tell myself when I get tired of eating chicken breast. I'm like, hi, you used to be a dinosaur, and now I'm eating you for fuel.
Okay.
Then, okay, so next meal is a protein powder mixed into oatmeal. Ooh. I like to call it protein oats. So now we're talking carbs all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. And that's towards the end of my day because it's been about 8 hours or so since I've been awake, and you don't want to go too long without having any carbs. That is a carb that is what they call a low glycemic index carb, which means
so
that
not a lot of sugar?
When you eat it, it's low on the glycemic index, which is an index of how likely it is to cause an insulin response when you eat it. With sugar being like 100, like oatmeal's down, I don't know, like 30 or 40 something.
I see.
You have to eat like a ton before your body's like, insulin, release the hounds. So then the idea of that is that it's like sort of like a slow IV drip of glucose into your bloodstream from that oatmeal. So that I'm backloading those carbs in preparation for my these are my preload carbs in preparation for my workout, which is coming up in 2 hours. I'm going to go lift those big weights. I need that glucose in my bloodstream to feed my muscles while I'm working out, because your muscles actually store glucose. Your muscles and your liver store glucose in the form of glycogen. It's a more stable version of glucose. It's like, imagine books on a shelf, right? And you take those books off as you need them to you burning energy, lifting weights. You deplete your glycogen stores.
I don't actually burn books, so I don't actually follow the analogy. Continue.
That wasn't the best. It's like a life bar.
Now we're talking.
It's a stamina bar in Skyrim,
okay?
And it depletes as you're lifting weights. But because you ate those carbs beforehand, that oatmeal is steadily supplying through your bloodstream more glucose, which can then be made bioavailable to those muscles, thus extending your ability to work out hard. Now, the backloading part comes post-workout, when you are in a state where it's called the anabolic window, right after you finish working out for about an hour. Your body is so ready to absorb everything, all these nutrients. Your body's like, send them to the muscles. They need them real bad. Because you just beat the shit out of them in the gym.
Yeah, and that's when you go to McDonald's.
Yeah, that's when you go to McDonald's, a couple of McDoubles, McFlurry. Sorry, the machine's broken. God damn it!
If I'm to use the analogy of the car, it's like instead of putting oil in the car, you're putting Big Macs.
Yes.
Okay.
And Emma, you nailed it.
Got it.
You hit the nail on the head, and that's why I'm so successful. It's Big Macs. So post workout, we're in the anabolic window, and your body's like, please feed me the things I need. You give it more chicken breast, and you give it a high glycemic index carb. Unlike the oats, this is all at once. You actually want to generate the insulin response at this point in time, because the insulin response tells your body to build.
Okay.
Right? It tells your body to store nutrients places. Now, if you've prepped your body to store in muscles because you worked out real hard, guess what? You generate an insulin response, going to take all that nutrition that you're putting in your body and send it to your muscles. If you're sitting on your ass all day and you generate an insulin response,
it's going to your ass.
Yeah, send it to his ass and titties, right?
Yeah.
His tees. I'm sorry, this is your show. I keep saying that word. So anyway, and we call that's the backloading portion of the diet. Post workout like that, you take in a fair amount of carbohydrates in the form of rice. Short grain rice is a high glycemic index carb, and you have now backloaded for the next day.
Oh,
You
I
have
see.
you've stored all the energy back in your muscles wherever you've worked out, and when you go to sleep that night, your insulin response will happen. You'll build muscle like crazy, and then by the time morning rolls around, your insulin response will have faded, and all it takes is a little MCT oil to get the fat burning engine running again. So you actually get the best of both worlds with this diet. You get the benefits of the ketosis during the day before you eat your carbs in the late afternoon in preparation for your workout, but then you also get the carbs that feed your muscles and allows them to grow better post-workout. So carb backloading diet, you didn't know
So
what you were getting yourself into with that
yeah,
one.
it sounds it sounds to me like you're cheating.
It is the best diet I've ever been on in my life, and it feels like cheating because I have struggled. God,
I don't know
man,
the
I've struggled.
rules in this sport, but it sounds like you're cheating. It sounds way too easy, and you're fixing it. You're fixing the deck, loading the dice.
I 100 believe you when you say that you just heard me go off on that wild story that it's easy. Super easy.
Super easy.
Took no
I
research
mean,
whatsoever. I just jumped
you
right
just
in.
told me everything I need to know. I got
I
100%
did
retention
though.
on that too.
And now all you have to do is follow this diet and live and train like a Spartan for a year, and
There we go. That's
you
easy.
too can build muscle.
Great
It's
infomercial.
super fun.
Just clip to Colin crying in the gym. Oh, it hurts so bad. 3
I
more
miss
reps,
chocolate.
bitch.
I miss beer. I miss socializing with people. Oh.
So I got a question for you though, quiz. It seems like right now it's very popular to do the buzzword intermittent fasting. And it sounds like nothing about what you just said has any form of fasting if you're eating every 2 hours and backloading before you go to bed and getting up and eating
That's
more
right.
eggs and killing more chicken and
That's right. Intermittent fasting, I mean, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on this. I didn't go to school for any of this. I went to the school of YouTube and listening to people who are way smarter than I am.
hey, that's a
But,
10th planet expert though.
yeah. Oh, shots fired.
If you got a good documentary, man, I got to look into it.
I would put you in the electric chair for that. There you go. No, the intermittent fasting, from what I understand, is really great for resetting one's insulin sensitivity. And what I mean by that is just how sensitive you are to foods containing sugar. And I don't necessarily mean like sucrose or fructose. I could be talking about rice, for example, carbs. Any type of carbs, your body, your liver changes into glucose because that's the sugar that your body runs on, specifically your brain. And, all different bodily functions, but your brain is a glucose addict. It loves to run on glucose. It is constantly taking glucose out of your bloodstream and using it to do stupid brain things.
That's my brain.
Stupid brain functions.
They're called memes.
Yeah, I love your memes too. Yeah, so say that for whatever reason, somebody like me, I have a high glucose or insulin sensitivity. I don't know if it's just the way that our creator made me, or if it's from years of abusing Oreos. I don't know why. But I have
Trust
a
me,
high insulin sensitivity.
I'm 35 years into abusing Oreos, and it hasn't changed me at all. So it might just be you. Sorry.
Just lining that cream up on the mirror. Just
Just one more bump. That's all I need. Get me straight.
Colin, I'm leaving you and I'm taking the kids. I don't care.
Leave the Oreos.
Leave the Oreos. That's all I care about. So, like, say I was having an issue where I hadn't changed anything in my diet, but I was finding that like I was putting on like body fat instead of dropping it, which is the idea. I'm trying to drop body fat and gain lean muscle mass, which should be impossible, but not on the carb backload diet.
Not when you're cheating.
Not when you're cheating with science and knowledge.
That's right, you bastard.
Honestly, like, it's a pretty recent development. Like, this diet is pretty new.
The human body's been around for, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands, are we into millions of years? But we've just figured out how to use it. So
yeah, it's wild. And I'm sure some people had some idea what they were doing. Maybe they lucked into it, but now that we have the internet, people are able to have ideas and share them, and
Yeah, damn, they're all over the place. I try to avoid them.
yeah, I know.
There's so
I
many
mean, I'm pretty
ideas.
sure the internet's mainly for porn, but every once in a while, people share ideas and learning happens.
It's
I don't
it's
understand.
mostly for porn until we get an election cycle and
Yeah. Then it's for hatred and memes, of
yeah,
course.
and hate porn.
But anyway, intermittent fasting is great for resetting one's insulin sensitivity. So if I found my insulin sensitivity was like crazy off the charts high for some reason, I hadn't changed the way I'm eating, but like now suddenly the rice I'm eating is causing me to gain body fat when it shouldn't be. I could fast for a day and then go back to eating the exact same diet and find that my insulin sensitivity had lowered.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and that from what the limited research and knowledge the research that I've done and knowledge that I have on the subject is an excellent use for intermittent fasting. I don't personally see the use in incorporating it into like one's regular diet.
Hmm. Yeah, because
I'm
there's
sure
people that are
it has,
using it that say like it's the end all, it's the holy
right.
grail of fitness, and it
Those
sounds to
people
me,
that try carb backloading.
yeah, they aren't cheating. They're trying to do it right.
That's right.
So, in my expert's opinion, being you, Colin, the expert, would you say that there's certain body types maybe that are less ideal to be doing that type of diet on? Say
I
ectomorphic?
think I think this diet benefits everybody, actually.
No, I mean intermittent
Oh, the
fasting.
intermittent fasting. I'd say anybody who's looking to put on lean muscle mass with the quickness, you got to eat.
Hmm.
So that doesn't lend itself well to that.
Food is
I mean,
good.
I'm,
Yeah.
again, I'm not like the world's smartest man here, but putting two and two together, I know you got to keep a
Yeah.
steady stream of protein in one's bloodstream in order to build the muscle. That's one of the elements. It's an important element, and there are many. Like
Intermittent fasting just sounds like they're trying to make sadness sexy again.
who wants to do that?
Yeah,
Who wants
it's
to
it.
like?
Hey, bro, listen to me. It's intermittent and it's fasting, and it's.
Yeah,
Listen,
and
you're
put
gonna
them
get.
together. That sounds
Yeah.
terrible.
Wait. What is
You know who
fasting?
else
Fast.
fasts? People who are afraid of their God.
Yeah. Also, people who are
Right?
starving to death.
Yeah,
They're.
people who are starving
They don't
and
have no
people who are afraid that
intermittent
God is
though.
going to not let them into heaven if they don't do it.
Yeah.
That's
So
who
we're going
fast.
to
And people who are
pretend.
trying to defeat the British in a non-violent manner. Those are the only people who fast.
Yeah. Oh, and also half of Fit America right now, apparently.
Yeah,
So,
apparently.
yeah, it's the sexy thing to do.
I
Is
think it's a bit of a fad in terms of using it like an actual diet. But I'm again, let me preface in the middle of what I'm saying because that's how prefaces work.
you are a
I,
YouTube expert. We already covered that.
I don't know what I'm talking about really. I've learned everything I know through trial and error, listening to people who are smarter than me, and watching way too many videos on YouTube when I should be.
You know what though? If you were to put the pipes up right now and give us a gun show, I think that you'd make the people believe. I've seen them. I've seen
You
the
guys
selfies.
believers. You guys believers.
Here it comes.
There
Oh
it comes.
damn!
Gun
Oh
show.
we're
Weed's
cutting a
illegal in
promo.
Virginia. You can't smoke weed here, but you can have guns. All right.
Always loaded, one on both sides. Mwah, mwah.
That's what I think about intermittent fasting. I heard it has its uses, but I don't know that they're necessarily going to be beneficial towards my goals.
Yeah.
And therefore I do not incorporate it into my diet.
I like your diet. I didn't hear the word spinach or kale at any given point.
Now, I caught so much shit on Reddit from the vegans.
Oh, tell me about the vegans.
I posted a before and after picture on Reddit on a couple different subreddits, and it went like viral. I didn't realize.
Really?
I checked this off my nerd bucket list. Like reached the front page of Reddit.
Oh well, I forgot to put that.
I did it.
I didn't realize I needed to put that in your introduction that you're internet famous.
I mean, like I don't like walking around. Like the fame is oppressive. Drew. Okay.
You should get a picture of you on the front of Reddit on a shirt and just wear it everywhere.
I'm gonna take a screenshot of it. Yeah. And just make that into a shirt. Like highlight it in Paint. Microsoft Paint, like
yeah, I don't know if you know, I'm kind of a big deal.
All time, bitch. What's up?
Yes, I am Colin Harding. No, you weren't talking to me. Oh,
it works wonders at bars. You just get off me, bitch. But yeah, no.
So tell me about the vegans.
My post went viral on the fitness subreddit, which is apparently a big one.
It sounds like it.
It's a big one. It reaches a lot of people, a lot of subscribers. So it went viral there, and that meant it went viral on all of Reddit. So like it got a lot of attention. And I thought I'd have people like, calling me out for one reason or another, but I did not see the vegans coming.
Like you never see the vegans coming. Man. They just show up and start shitting their little green shits all over you.
And nobody expects the fucking vegan inquisition. And, like they came out of nowhere at me. They were like, "Where are the vegetables, bruh?"
Okay.
Because to make my post, I wanted to post a before and after picture because I'm vain. But to make my post, I had to share my diet and my exercise routine.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. It was the rules. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to post my picture, and I wouldn't have been able to get all those fake internet points and feel good about myself for the first time ever.
So now they got hate fodder to throw in there.
Now they're reading my diet, and they're like, "Where are the vegetables, bruh?" And I said something that, I guess it was a cardinal sin. My response was, I don't incorporate vegetables in my diet. They just gum up the works.
Okay, here we go.
Wrong thing to say. And just like vegans start crawling out of the woodwork, just like coming off the ceiling like fucking Nosferatu. Just like, what actually, oh my god, like I want to do another mid sentence preface by saying I'm not against vegetables, guys. Vegetables are fine. They're fine and dandy.
You can have them.
All right? Eat your vegetables, do what you want. But they're not strictly necessary to being healthy. Okay?
Oh, shit. Okay, no vegans. Keep going.
Yeah. So the vegans basically told me, what did they say? They said that what I'm doing is like driving without a seatbelt.
Clearly.
And I'm gonna die young, essentially. I'm riding fast and loose, driving without a seatbelt, doing 80 on the freeway.
It sounds to me like they're texting while they're driving, if these are all their analogies.
Yeah, these are all they had people telling me, well, by my estimations, you should already be dead from rectal cancer. You should have had like 8 rectal cancers by now.
Wait, you ate a meat? That's a cancer. Yeah. You have a cancer in you right now.
And you've got like 16 glutens going on by my estimation. So yeah, they just told me all the horrible ways I was going to die. I'm going to die young, this, that, and the other. And I was like, that's interesting because, one, I look the best I've ever looked. 2, I feel the best I've ever felt.
Right,
3,
check.
My doctor, who recently gave me a full physical, said I'm good to go. 4, my blood work is impeccable.
All of those things the vegans leave empty in their boxes. They don't look the best they've ever looked. Generally speaking, they look pretty gaunt. A lot of cheeky bones. If that's what you're into, like the Edward from Twilight look, then I guess he looks about as vegan as you can get.
I was like, I tell you what, I posted my picture. Why don't you post yours?
Right.
I'll post my blood work. Why don't you post yours?
Oh shit, we're going for pinks now, son.
We'll compare. Yeah, I live my life 1/4 pounder at a time, bitch.
Listen, you have bad karma, and I don't even want to think about all of the terrible lives that die every day to feed your monstrous appetite.
Yeah, I know, and I do feel bad about the meat and chicken breasts that I eat and the factory farms that the cows that are slaughtered live out their miserable existences on before I eat them. I do feel bad about that.
Clipping back to Colin crying in the corner.
I can't afford to eat the meat that doesn't inflict pain upon the world, though.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
I just can't afford it.
It's true.
And it doesn't. And it is the antithesis of my fitness goals. So am I selfish? Yes. Do I feel bad? Yes.
Okay, what if?
Kind of. I don't know.
Hear me out. What if you were to get so strong from eating chicken breasts and you have my attention. So strong. We're not even going to talk about how many strongs it is, but very strong. Like creeping up on Samson. And you, of all of the chickens and of all of the strength of the beef and all of their sad souls that you've ingested and the karma that you've reaped, you in fact become the savior of the factory farm. You go to a factory farm and burst open the doors and release the flocks of over-plumping chickens into the wild, and you become the vegan savior. Then what? then what? It's checkmate, bitch. Checkmate, internet.
I was actually hoping you wouldn't give away my ultimate plan because
Ooh.
now they'll see it coming. But yeah, no, that's what's happening. That's long term.
Okay. How far along on So Strong are we? We're still blue belt though, right?
Yeah, blue belt. I'm probably about 13.5 strongs right now. If I estimate. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but
that's a British unit, but I think I understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't do it in imperial for you. I know that's how you get down.
Yeah, I was gonna say fathoms, but I think I got you.
13 stones of strong.
So, guys, I noticed that we got some chat going on in the chat box. We're going to get to that pretty soon. Let's give it another 10 minutes. We'll allow people to drop some questions, comments, anything that you want Chewbacca Uncircumcised, Colin Harding to talk about, or myself being the less intelligent person on all these subjects. I just said that. Don't tell me not to say that.
It's your show.
Listen. I can degrade myself and I can talk about titties. These are the rules. We went over this.
Wonderful. I want you to look in the mirror and I want you to tell yourself that you're wonderful. You're good enough. You're strong enough.
This is
people like you.
That motivation talk coming. I'm not in the fitness industry. It doesn't work on me. It doesn't work on me, Colin. All right. So you guys fill up the chat box. We're gonna talk about nothingisms a little more.
Can we give them a moment to think about what they might want to ask while I excuse myself for a moment?
Sure.
Your boy needs to tinkle.
All right, you get your tinkle on.
All right.
We're gonna talk nasty about you while you're gone, so don't be on too long. So Colin, I've been following him for a little while. By little, I mean like a year, a little more. And I saw him originally as a jiu-jitsu guy. He was, I saw him in the gi. He was training. He talks a lot of jiu-jitsu, but also he did a lot of memes. Some of them are aggregated. He found some of the best of the interwebs and put it out there, got some attention. But then he also makes them as well. So if you go to his Instagram page, Chewbacca Uncircumcised, I tagged it in the posts on stories and on the wall post if you want to check him out. Definitely worth going there for a lull. But he himself is also a stand-up comedian of the professional variety. And I don't know how comedians grade themselves in professionality, but to me, if you're making money doing a thing, then that's a professional thing you're doing. So at least that's the way it works in the sports world. So we're going to go with professional comedian. And he's been posting, if you get on Facebook and friend him and check out his profile, he's been posting a few of his sets that he's been doing at these local pubs and dives, and there's some good shit in there. I'm not going to give it away because he obviously he does it better. So worth checking out. Definitely give him a like and a follow, and let's give him some shit in the comments here. Let's see what we got. How was the tinkle, my man?
Oh man, it was epic.
Was it everything you hoped for?
It was. It was clean. It was pure. I didn't even need to wash it.
Yeah. When's the last time you've seen yellow pea? Probably not often on that type of diet, hey? Getting real personal.
Carb backloading diet. Are you a child of the 90s? Do you remember the Ecto Cooler?
Yes.
That's another benefit of the carb backloading diet. Look it
up. Okay.
Green pea.
Damn. Oh, damn. All right. I'm going to check out this chat here, pulling it up in a bigger window I can read. If you don't notice these giant goggle glasses, I don't read too well on small screens.
Yeah, I feel your pain, bro. I want to get them laser eyes. That's what I want.
Them laser eyes? Tell me about those.
Get them laser eyes.
Okay, starting at the top, couple of questions for your guest. One, how do you get your biceps so beefy? I think that was like half of what we talked about. So we can skip number one. Number two.
Yeah, who wants to talk about
that? You're going to have to help me with this because if I'm reading this right, it says, where the semen?
Oh, Lord.
What does it actually say?
It says where the semen.
Does that make any more sense?
It's just one of my colleagues.
Oh, you're being trolled.
I'm being trolled.
Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Gains train, blah, blah. Oh, so he's talking about how you talk at work?
Yeah, and at the gym, this is the unfortunate consequence of going to the gym as often as I have been. That's all I can talk about now. Gains train and get your ticket for the gains train. Um, if you pay for a whole month, you save 10% on the gains train.
Oh, wow.
That's a good deal. If you think ahead, if you ride the gains train often enough.
All I know is about the pain train, the Terry Tate pain train. I didn't know about the gains train. That's new to me. As you can tell, I don't have them gains, so.
We can work on that.
I don't want to. I like fighting small people.
That's fair.
I've seen big people. They're scary.
They're easy to handle.
Okay, so tell me now. We haven't really touched on a whole lot of your jujitsu per se, besides you blew your knee once and it sucked.
Yeah, it sucked. Yeah.
What type of jujitsu do you like to do?
For my entire time as a white belt, I thought it was fun to lie on people in side control.
That's such a big guy move.
I know, right? It's so typical, right? I know. I'm ashamed, and you're probably surprised. And that's
yeah, you're ashamed, and you should be ashamed.
Appropriate reactions, yeah. So yeah, I spent the majority of my white belt career like just lying on people in side control, like trying to twist arms, and getting to mount and being like, "What do I do from here?"
Well, do I win?
Yeah, I got to the position. Is there more? I'm not certain. I'm just gonna go back to side control. I feel safe here.
Okay.
And then I got my blue belt, and I decided when I got my blue that I'm going to work off my back exclusively.
Good move.
So yeah, I started every roll off my back and just try to work my guard, and got a halfway adept at a scissor sweep. It was a fun little game I used to like to play. Scissor sweep the purple belts and above whenever possible, which was rare, but it happened occasionally.
Okay. Well, now with all those leg gains, it should be inevitable.
Yeah, no, I have a feeling with as much as I've been working my legs, I could probably I might not be able to lock up a traditional triangle too easily, but I could probably finish somebody with the old fat boy triangle where you're just like this with your legs.
Just squeeze.
Yeah, just a scissor.
Okay, I have an idea for your montage, since we were saying you're in the rocky part of your film.
Yeah.
I definitely want to see you practicing a scissor sweep on a palm tree and breaking it in half.
But it has to be like the 7th attempt.
Yes, of course. You'll see, like, after a few, there'll be a crack.
And then, like, a coconut falls on my head. Like, no, not again.
Yeah, you have a flashback to your knee, and you're like, no!
My master's like staring on disapprovingly, like, not yet. Not yet. Eventually, I get it. Like blood sport. I do it blindfolded.
Yeah, we got the big guy in our gym. He's a 3-stripe purple and a police officer. So he's every bit as Gronk as that sounds. Nicest guy in the world. Shout out to Chris. But you can expect that if he gets in side control and God forbid Kesikatami, you're every bit of fucked. There's no way you're getting out of that. Oh, no, it's not unpleasant. It's death.
Does it make you tap from side pressure?
No, but there's like serious PTSD flashbacks on everybody underneath that. They're just like, you won't get the Americana as the Americana's going and going and going, and then like there's people that panic tap. I won't lie. So
no, absolutely. I approve of this gentleman's technique. So that's my go-to. It's like it's my bread and butter.
But
I'm horrible. I made the license plate on my car a personalized tag. It says Keylock. Nice. That's awesome. That's so cliche that it's perfect. I know, right?
Yeah.
How cool am I?
But I owe it to Chris in my own game, because he's the reason why my guard has become better, because it has to. You can't let a Chris pass your guard. You can't do that. That's the end of your night if that happens. So it became my quest for almost 2 years to never let Chris pass my guard again. And
that's fantastic. And as a big guy, let me tell you, what you're doing and the skill that you're generating as my camera falls. I'm gonna have to reposition that. Just keep getting closer to my TV. You are learning exactly what you need to do, which is to tire him out. Like, it is so tiring as a big guy. It's so frustrating to have somebody whose guard seems impassable. We keep trying and failing, and we get a little frustrated, and we keep trying and failing. It's like beating your head against a wall, and you start making mistakes. You get a little slower. You start to get tired, and then you get scissors swept so hard you could fucking break a palm tree.
Yeah. So I say all that to get back to Chris as the three-stripe purple. Obviously, he's a crusher from the top. He was always meant to be a crusher from the top. But every now and again, I forget that he's got a guard. And when that happens, you've never felt the jaws of life when it comes to a triangle choke until you've been in Chris's triangle choke. But he will literally just like hydraulically force one of your arms past his legs, slowly crush you to death between his. And the whole time you're like, I'm doing everything right. I'm defending. I'm choking. I'm dying. I'm dead.
You're like Leia and Luke and Han and Chewie
exactly.
stuck in the fucking trash compactor.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can prop up all the poles you want against there and push for all you're worth, but those walls don't even slow.
If R2 doesn't get that code in, you're fucking toast.
Yeah, we're waiting for the buzzer. Come on, R2.
Come on, R2. Oh man. Yeah, no, it's true though. I mean, it's cool though. That's one of the things I love about jiu-jitsu is just how all the different body types too play into it, and cause you to force you to have to learn to adjust your jiu-jitsu to those people and what they bring to the table physically. My buddy Dave Porter at my gym is black belt, awesome dude. Look him up. Avid competitor, just all around. Fantastic guy. He's like a goddamn American Jedi. He likes to say that size doesn't matter until it does.
Oh.
Which is to say that, yeah, like you can take the old classic, match between Pedro Sauer and former Mr. Utah bodybuilder Lance.
Yeah, I remember that match.
Lance
Yeah.
Bachelor. Yeah, it's made the rounds on YouTube and what have you.
Yeah.
That guy didn't know any jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And Pedro Sauer is a Gracie black belt from the old school.
Which is cheating.
He knows all the jiu-jitsu.
All of it.
All of it. And he was able to double armbar that guy, and if they didn't stop the match, it would have been a bad time for old Lance. Because his size, it mattered to an extent, but ultimately didn't really matter. The match ended the way that you expected it would. As a jiu-jitsu practitioner, knowing that it was a jiu-jitsu guy, of exceptional knowledge going up against just a guy, albeit a very large guy. That being said, if you take a large guy with possessing of quite a bit of strength and you teach him jiu-jitsu the right way, as another, I'm not certain if he's a Pedro guy or not, but Jim Kelly is a black belt, I believe, from the south. Of not South America, but the southern states of America. I can't remember exactly which one. I want to say Atlanta, but I'm probably wrong. But Jim Kelly has a habit of not promoting guys until they're able to do small guy jiu-jitsu. And that goes doubly for big guys in his academy. If you're a big guy, you can be proficient at a lot of things, but until you're proficient at small guy jiu-jitsu, you're not getting promoted.
That makes sense.
Because if you take a big guy and you force him to do jiu-jitsu like a small guy, that is a dangerous MFer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. For example, Orlando Sanchez, 300 pounds ADCC world champion black belt, Mundial champion black belt. He's beaten everyone you can name that he's ever, big names he's gone against. And his size does matter because he knows jiu-jitsu too. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a prime example. What I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I only know a little bit,
What is your instructor as far as body type? Is he a big guy, small guy, medium guy, not a guy?
I've learned from all of them. Okay. It's fun to learn from guys who are your size because generally if they can do it, you can do it. So I have enjoyed learning from black belts who are larger, or as they say in my academy, heroic sized. But no, on the reg, at my school, the people I learned from are all smaller than me. and have different skill sets by virtue of their body types. I've learned from females, there's a young lady named Kristen DeBrucker, who's a black belt, excellent practitioner, excellent teacher, and she teaches some stuff that just wouldn't occur to me to do as a dude, and or as a dude, of a particular body type.
Yeah,
and it adds facets to my game that wouldn't otherwise be there. So I'm thankful for that. Jiu-jitsu is great because it really teaches you that you don't even know. You don't even know what people are capable of, and that's why you have to respect everybody. Like some of the baddest people in my gym look like the worst thing they could do to you is mess your taxes up. And that would be the worst thing you could ever assume about that person, as they throw you on your head and choke the life from your unbelieving body.
Yeah.
I love learning from people of all different body types and skill sets, and it's super cool because they all bring something different to the table. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap this up, man. This has been
Awesome.
a lot of fun. This has been a journey in physics, in anatomy, in comedy, in titties. Like, I think we covered the gambit.
Can we circle back around to titties before?
After.
The after party at the Holiday Inn.
No, but guys, everybody who isn't yet following Chewbacca Uncircumcised on Instagram, get on that shit. He's got some funny memes he posts up there. You might even catch a selfie of the guns, which is a pleasure. Colin, it's been a pleasure. You want any shout outs or plugs at the end here?
It's not up yet, but my buddy Paul and I, who I've referenced a couple times, we're going to be putting together a website called Modern Day Barbarian. It's going to be live here in the next couple weeks. You can check that for diet tips, training tips when it comes to weightlifting, and some fun stuff like that. And if you follow me on YouTube, / Colin Harding, just look for Colin Harding on YouTube. You can find my channel. I'm going to start posting pretty regularly a series I plan on titling My Swole Kitchen, where I'm going to teach people how to do what I do in the kitchen that will help you get them gains. That's pretty much it.
So later on, maybe you'll get like My Swole Bedroom and have like a couple offshoots or different. Okay.
I'm hoping for your pointers on that subject, Drew.
All right. Been a pleasure, Colin. Been a pleasure, Colin. And thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time on You, Me, and Us.